Have you been struggling with off flavors or a goaty taste in your milk? Well, that's what we're talking about today, and I am here to help. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Sarah from the Nest in the West. I live with my family on a 2-acre farm in the West Valley of Phoenix, Arizona. We raise mini Nubian dairy goats, and I am a homeschool mom to 4, a small-scale flower farmer, and I teach homesteaders the art of goat milk cheese making and holistic dairy goat care inside my courses and membership, the Dairy Goat Collective. So dealing with off flavors or goaty taste to your milk is unfortunately a common conundrum for dairy goat owners. And the reason for this is that goat milk is just on a molecular level a more fragile, more sensitive milk and more prone to developing off flavors because it's more easily damaged by things like heat and poor handling and the diet of your goats as well. Fortunately, there's often an easy fix, and the answer is often simply right before your eyes. So today I'm going to walk you through the most common causes of off flavors in your goat milk and how to fix it. And I'm also going to show you what you can do if none of these things end up being the culprit and what next step should be after that. And in case you don't want to watch this video over and over again or have to refer back to it, there is a freebie that I've linked in the description. It's a simple flow chart that will walk you through all the things I'm talking about today and help you determine and pinpoint the cause of off flavors in your milk. Okay, so let's get started. All right, first of all, one of the most common causes of off flavors in your goat milk that I see is something off in the diet. So number one, I always like to ask, are you feeding alfalfa to your goats? Alfalfa hay or alfalfa pellets? Doesn't really matter which one, but alfalfa is not only really healthy for dairy goats because it's high in calcium and high in protein, so it's really great support for them during their lactation, but it also helps provide a really nice sweet taste to their milk. So number one, are you feeding your goats alfalfa? And secondly, is a common cause of weird flavors in your milk. Is there something your goats are eating on a pasture or some plants in your yard, wherever they live, that could be causing off flavors in their milk? So wild onion and wild garlic are a couple big ones, or just any other really pungent plant that they might have access to. These are things that can cause weird flavors in the milk. Another really important thing for your dairy goat's health that greatly affects the flavor of the milk is their minerals. What kind of minerals are you offering to goats? A simple salt lick or a salt block is not going to cut it. You want a loose mineral given free choice. Now, there are many goat brands of minerals that are pretty high quality and do a good job. Things like Mana Pro, I know, has one. Wheatlix is another, or Redmond has some good animal salts as well. Make sure what you're looking for is something specifically for goats because they do have a higher copper need than a lot of other animals. Or offer something like a mineral buffet, which allows your goat to pick and choose the specific minerals that she needs in her diet. Next, let's talk about your milking routine, because this is another really common cause of off flavors in your milk. You want to make sure you are milking in a clean environment with clean hands and making sure your goat's udder is nice and clean too before milking. I don't do anything crazy here. I just use basic soap and water and try to keep everything clean and sanitary, but not sterile. We're not going for sterile. Sterile means lifeless. And honestly, sterile just isn't possible when you are milking on a homestead or a farm, and that's okay. But we do want things to be nice and clean. Make sure you're stripping out the first few squirts of milk to avoid that higher bacteria count in your milk. And then check the sanitation methods that you're using. Are you using stainless steel and glass in your milking routine? So I use a stainless steel pail. I pick a pail that doesn't have a lot of like really thin crevices along the side that milk or bacteria can sort of hide in and cause off flavors. It's easy to fit in my dishwasher to help sanitize it there. Or, if you don't have a dishwasher, that's fine. Just use hot soapy water and make sure that you're giving it a good sanitizing rinse from time to time. I recommend One Step, which is an oxygen-based sanitizer, versus something that's a little more chemical and harsh. I also recommend keeping your milk in glass jars only. Plastic tends to harbor bacteria and off flavors and scents, and so that can really contribute to the flavor of your milk, especially if you're reusing the plastic over and over again. Keeping your milk into mason jars and just filtering the milk directly into there is a great way to help keep it tasting fresh for a long time. Make sure you are also filtering your milk. So this is a small piece, but I think a lot of people miss it, and it can really cause off flavors in the milk. I see a lot of people using a reusable plastic mesh coffee filter to filter their milk. And while that's really convenient and it's nice that it's reusable, that really fine plastic mesh, for one, it's plastic, right? It can harbor those off flavors, but it's really easy for milkstone to build up in those tiny, tiny little holes and cracks. And it's almost impossible to get fully clean, even if you are sticking it in the dishwasher. So instead, I recommend using something like a disposable milk filter or something like a cheesecloth that you do sanitize frequently by boiling it with some baking soda and maybe hanging to dry on a line in the sunshine. The next factor that I would look at is, are you rapidly chilling your milk? Is your milk getting down to about 55 degrees Fahrenheit within the first 30 minutes to an hour after milking? This plays a huge part in keeping your milk tasting fresh for longer. So with raw milk, we're not worried about it sitting at room temperature. We're not worried about it getting cold really, really fast. As far as safety goes, as long as you have proper milk handling and your goats are healthy, that milk is fine. It can just naturally clabber. But if you are looking to keep your milk tasting fresh and sweet for a week or more in the fridge, you're gonna wanna get it cold as fast as possible. Now, the way that I like to do this, especially in the summertime when it is very hot, is by bringing an ice chest full of ice water out to the barn with me. And as I milk every couple of goats, I filter the milk right there in my little cart in the barn directly into the glass jars, and then I put those jars right into the ice water. This helps them get down to that target 55-degree mark within usually the first 30 minutes after milking. It's chilling in the barn while I finish milking the other goats and finish up my chores out there. And then I can transfer it straight to my nice cold refrigerator where it will continue to get down in temperature. And that just really helps keep the milk tasting fresh and sweet and clean for a week or longer. Now, if you are suddenly having off flavors in your milk, or your milk just isn't staying fresh for as long as it used to, you might want to check your fridge temperature. This is something that happened to me recently where I was just kind of inconsistently dealing with issues with the milk clabbering faster or just tasting sour more quickly. And we realized that someone had messed with the settings on our fridge and it was just running too hot. So that is a good place to check as well. The last sort of common issue I see that can cause off flavors in your milk is if your goats have been with a buck or in an area where bucks were recently housed. So if you keep bucks, you are well aware that they are kind of smelly. They like to pee on everything. They rub their scent glands on everything. And they just leave this musky odor that is not my favorite and definitely doesn't create a nice flavor for your milk either. And if your does have been housed with bucks, or if you move them into an area where bucks have been kept recently, it is a high possibility that they're going to pick up some of that smell and it's going to pass into the milk too for a little while. So keep that in mind too. We keep our bucks in a pen that is right there where our does are in their pen as well, but they're not housed next to each other 24/7. They can see each other through the fence, they can interact through the fence, but even that amount of closeness does not cause issues with the flavor of our milk. Okay, so those are the top reasons that can cause off flavors in your milk. Let's talk about a few other factors that may be contributing that perhaps you didn't think about, and what to do if none of these things check out and you're not sure what's going on. A few other factors that can cause off flavors in your milk that are totally normal and you just need to wait it out are if your goat has recently kidded. So if she just had babies, her milk's not going to taste good for a few weeks. She is getting that colostrum out of her milk, and so that's one factor. Colostrum doesn't taste good. It tastes pretty salty and goaty. It's still a superfood. It's still fine and safe to drink. It just doesn't taste very good. And when it's mixed with the milk, that's just not a very tasty milk either. So that's one factor. If she is nursing kids, she is going to be holding back the richest milk for those babies, which is good. That means she's a good mama, but it also means that your milk is not going to achieve its peak flavor until she's pretty close to weaning them. So here on our farm, we fully expect that for the first 3 weeks or so, the milk is not going to taste great. And I will use it for things like making yogurt or even making some chev here and there. And we'll use it for baking or cooking purposes, but we're not really drinking that milk. It doesn't taste too good, in my opinion. It's not really worth it. But After that period, we are drinking the milk. It's fine. It tastes good. It's just not up to its peak flavor and fat content because the mama is saving back her richest milk for her babies. So the milk is not as sweet or creamy as it's going to be once her kids are older and either have weaned or she's kind of self-weaning them because they're older. And usually that's going to be between the 8 and 12 week mark. After that point, the milk should be tasting fabulous. If it is not, it is important that you get to the root of why. And so here is where I would recommend, if none of the other things seem to be the problem, if you've played around with it and tried and seen that nothing seems to be the problem, and if your goat seems healthy and you're not sure what's going on, this is a great chance to do a milk test. So most states have dairy labs scattered about the state, especially if you're in dairy country. There should be some dairy labs nearby that will allow you to send in some test tubes of the milk and get it tested and find out what on earth is going on. See if she has some subclinical mastitis going on or a high bacteria count that could be causing off flavors, and maybe that helps alert you to a problem in your process that you need to get figured out. So if you're not sure what's going on, if your milk tastes off, or if you're having weird symptoms in your cheese making or yogurt making and the milk just isn't acting as you expect it to, that is where I always recommend to go get a milk test. It's not very expensive usually, and often the lab is happy to walk you through the results because they can be a little bit confusing to read, especially if you don't have a background in science or medicine. I know for me, using a dairy lab has helped to pinpoint issues in milk over the years, and I'm really grateful for that resource. Even if you don't have one within driving distance, you're probably able to mail it. So just check with your local herd health lab or dairy lab and see what their protocol is, how to send the milk in, what sort of test tubes they want you to use, and what their protocol is. All right, friends, so those are my top tips for getting to the root of what is going on with your Goaty tasting milk. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this helps you get the best milk that you possibly can from your goats. If you're putting in the work to milk those girls, you better be getting the tastiest milk out of it. And so these are all ways to help ensure you get the freshest, yummiest goat milk that you possibly can. And if you want to make the most of that milk and turn it into delicious cheese, you should check out my course, Goat Cheese Academy. If you'd like help figuring out how to holistically treat issues like mastitis or how to just holistically care for your goats in general and get the basics of cheese making, definitely check out my membership, the Dairy Goat Collective. All right, friends, I am cheering you on in your goat journey, and I'll see you in the next video.